Welcome back to Markets at Noon. The flashes of KPIT Tech at the bottom of your screen. We'll just get that back. Meanwhile, we have the management at Ajmera Realty, who is now with us. Mr. Dhaval Ajmera, director at the company, is with us. Sir, thank you so much for taking out time for us. Could you just talk to us about the increase in various input prices and the impact because of that? Because your key deliverables really don't change. Availability of raw material, impact on labor can get disturbing to complete and give the projects.
So yes, you're right. With the current situation which is going around in the world with this Ukraine-Russia war, there has been sudden shortage of raw material supplies, at least especially to the real estate sector, what I know, and obviously overall also. So it has been a major shortage in terms of steel and cement, and we can see that steel has unprecedentedly grown about 2.5 times from what it was, and cement has also grown by about 100 rupees a bag plus in the last 1.5 months. So this has suddenly made the cost of construction very high to about 400 to 500 rupees a square feet. So definitely this is going to have an impact in terms of the cost of construction. And if I look at it primarily, if I have to look at our major projects which is at Wadala, at Mumbai, where the sales price are higher. So yes, this is going to be a impact in terms of our cost and our margins. But overall, we would still be under a healthy way, and we are hoping that this price rise of raw materials would stabilize in a bit and probably come down once the supply increases.
Hi, Dhaval. This is Anisha also joining into the conversation. Now, talk to us about the impact that this is having, because there are reports that are suggesting that some of the builders have to halt the production as well and construction given the increase in the cost. Is the situation so dire? And also, would this mean that you guys are looking at hiking prices? Because yes, the cost has gone up by around 500 square feet, but last year you also got a lot of benefit when the FSI premium was increased.
Correct. So, to answer your first question, primarily this cost impact has been very much been absorbed or been, really looked after by affordable housing segment and mid housing segment. So, those kind of projects have been having a very, very major setback. And so that is the reason because, in many of the cases, probably the margins are wiped out or probably there has been very, very minimal margin or something. So what is, if this price hike further continues, because right now what has happened is the impact is primarily from steel and cement, but if this now with the petrol price, diesel price increasing, it is going to have impact on every other raw material which is going to come. So definitely we are bound by RERA, we are bound by the commitments which has already been made to the sold products. So we would need to have no option but to probably, if this while none of the developers want to stop construction, but if this kind of unprecedented move comes, I think at least the affordable housing in the mid segment will have to have a halt unless the prices stabilizes, or probably have some way out, or media way out, to see how we can mitigate this risk. As far as the second point is concerned, yes, you're right. So if even during the last entire tenure, during the lockdown, when there was a good time for real estate and we had seen good sales happening over the last 1.5 year, there was a price hike, but all these price hike was being absorbed by developers because there was a positive sentiment and outcome in terms of sales. But now with this cost which has been suddenly jumped over the last 2 months, I think that's where somewhere everyone's feeling the pinch, and that's where you would see this hike coming in. And I'm very sure that with this kind of way it is going, the price hike would be in the range of 10 to 15% minimum in these segments, because that's how we would be able. None of the developers, I'm very sure, is looking at increasing their margins today, because when there is a momentum which is going, everyone wants to continue with the momentum. So yes, there would be a price hike if this things don't stabilize.
No, but Dhaval, you're saying that the 10-15% hike you'll have to take, but given the fact that this is expected to be transient in nature, can the industry not absorb this going forward? Because the expectation is this is going to impede demand as well, because now you have the additional cess of 1%, and 10-15% is a huge number when it comes to the cost of a house for any average household.
I absolutely agree with you. So that is the whole reason we as an association body, CREDA, MCHI, and overall we urge to the government that we probably need to come up with a solution where we don't increase the price. But can somewhere, if we go, historically 2 years back, when there was, stamp duty reduction done, there was a great move in the sales scenario. So why can't we look at reduction of stamp duty, which is currently, if I look at Mumbai, it is 5%, and now with the additional metro cess, it is going to become 6%. Why are we really looking at adding further cost? Can we really not bring down the cost to 3% in terms of stamp duty? There is a GST impact which is directly going to the coffers of the government, and 18% in terms of construction and 5% in terms of sales. Can we not look at GST being under ITC method where input tax credit is given? This will further bring down the cost. And thirdly, this scenario, which we hope and feel it's a temporary one, can we not try and see if we can stop the exports or halt the export or reduce the exports of steel and cement, and probably have the supply in the local market, which will further bring down the cost? I think if we work on these scenarios, there will be a time where we don't have to increase the price and the momentum still continues.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time for us. Always good to get perspective from you.